Hey guys, Chad Hoover. Today I'm going to talk to you about my favorites in the Megabass lures lineup. All right, so guys, I'm here at FishUSA, and all the lures that I'm talking about today are available right here at FishUSA, either in Fairview, Pennsylvania, stop by the pro shop, or you can get them online anywhere. If you're going to shop for fishing lures, think outside the box and go with the folks at FishUSA. So, Megabass, premium manufacturer of hard and soft baits. I'm going to run you through about 8 or 10 of my favorites, okay? This Sonicside, flat side, computer chip, squarebill is one of my favorites for the earlier side of the cold water, meaning when you're getting into that point where the fish have moved up shallow, you get a few warming trends, they then drop back off, and you got to get in that 4 to 6 foot range. And really, you've got a cold front, and it's rainy, and it's miserable, but you've got to get that reaction bite. That 1 millimeter computer chip that's square, but it's pointed on both corners, makes this thing deflect really well. And in cold water, that flat side kicks out a lot of vibration. So you get a lot more recognition by the bass. They're feeding up. They're trying to get ready to spawn. This looks like an easy meal. It comes in a lot of different cool colors. But I'm a big fan, knowing that these fish are primarily going to be looking up, going with a lighter color bait, something a little bit more natural. And again, that computer chip bill is going to deflect off of stuff really nice. Now, this STW S-Crank 1.2 is another killer. Use this a little bit later in the season after they've committed shallow and after they're really giving chase to both run off predators from the area that they're establishing to spawn and the reaction bite of deflecting this thing off of cover, deflecting it off of structure. Both the Sonicside and this S-Crank series are really great in that pre-spawn situation, but I find that this bait carries me through all the way up into the spawn, out of the spawn, and even post-spawn, and honestly up until I'm getting into that 65 to 70 degree water temperature. It's got a tight wobble. It imitates a brim or a little bit broader body bait, puts off a good vibration signature. It balances well. But what I really love about this bait is it searches, okay? When you're reeling it in, even without having to try to, it's gonna run off center and it's gonna find its way back to the middle. And that search and that belly roll and that different angle, that window painting effect that this bait puts off really gives them a bunch of different looks. Again, it deflects really well off of any kind of cover with this wider bill. And this thing carries me from, you know, as soon as those fish start thinking spawn in the pre-spawn, all the way through post-spawn in the recovery phase. And honestly, I throw it until it gets hot. Now, since we're talking about cold water, two of my favorite cold water baits is the Mag Draft Freestyle, where you get to rig it yourself. And because I'm going to be bumping bottom and dragging this thing, I like to reel it. Because I'm going to be bumping bottom and really dragging this thing, I like to rig it through this belly slit, but with a keel weighted hook, and actually use a little bit shorter hook than you normally would on a bait like this. I like to use the Mustad grip pin hooks. It keeps the bait from tearing up. It's got a keel weight on it, gets it down. That tail swims it to the bottom relatively slow. I can drag it along. I can hop and pop it. They come in a 2-pack, so it's a great value. But this thing right here, one of the other things I like about it is it's got this hydrodynamic fins on both the bottom and the sides that resist it rolling. Thing has just got a killer action. You can even throw this thing out and just wind and grind it and catch a lot of fish. Throw it out, let the weight carry it to the bottom, or just count down and learn where the bottom's at and just slow reel it and really kill some fish. It comes through the grass really nice and easy. So if you're fishing an offshore weed line that you found a bunch of fish stacked up on before they commit shallow, that thing is killer. And if you're fishing a lake where there's trout and they're going to be feeding up after the spawn, man, those stalker trout are a major target of those fish, and that thing right there just gets hammered. Now, the Mag Draft, everybody knows the Mag Draft that is familiar with the Megabass line. What I really like about this system is this mag hold. If I'm fishing open water, if I'm fishing for pelagic fish, I really love this bait for smallmouth, especially if I'm fishing sand flats, rock, anywhere except when I'm fishing directly on top of wood, because the hook has a tendency to hook up. Now, it does have 2 hook positions. You can put 2 hooks down or 2 hooks up and 1 down, depending on, you know, how much exposed hook you want to have. Again, if I'm fishing in grass or wood, I'm probably going to go with the freestyle and rig it myself. But if I'm fishing open water, making this cast and doing a countdown and reeling it over the top of structural changes, especially hard structure, then I'm going to go with this mag draft. Basically, this mag draft comes with what's called the direct fighting system from Megabass, where it's got the line connected all the way through to the line tie, and you're literally directly fighting. The bait itself is not involved in retaining the hook or the pressure of fighting the fish. So if you're looking for some real big fish enticing action, the other great thing about all these baits is they have a narrow tail profile. It gets out to that little bit wider body, and that heart-shaped tail just really makes that thing just kick, even at slow speeds, puts off a lot of vibration. Now, if you're talking cold water, you would be remiss if you didn't think about jerk baits, and especially when you're talking about transition. It's been warm and then it got cold, or it's warm outside, but the water's still cold, and you've got bright skies, and you've got fish that are looking up. You cannot go wrong with a jerk bait. In fact, I think a jerk bait is probably the most misutilized, underutilized bait. And I say misutilized because it really should be called a pause bait, because the pause is more important in a lot of cases than the jerk. And the reason being is you got to snatch it and give it slack. If you give it slack, these baits really swing to the side. So let's talk about some of my favorites in the jerk bait lineup from the folks at Megabass. Obviously, the Vision 110 is probably the staple of a lot of my jerk bait fishing, especially when I'm fishing shallow water, near deep water, if I'm fishing over ledges. And I've got a kind of a 1, 2, 3 punch. You're going to start with this 110. If they don't seem to be hitting it, a lot of times I like to downsize to the 110 Junior. Really big fan of throwing this thing in the river. On light line, this thing is killer. But if you want to wake it, you can tie a little bit heavier line, 12, 15-pound line, and you can slow reel that thing below the surface, and it gets inhaled. Now, from there, you can go to the 110 plus 1, or you can go to the 110 plus 2. What those do is get a little bit deeper, but also they get a little bit wider swing. So when you snatch that bait and you give it slack, that bait's going to turn way off. And what it does is that fish is swimming behind a bait, and they see it. They got a little thin profile, but when you snatch it and it kicks off to the side, they see that whole profile, and then when it twitches again to go away, a lot of times that gets their action. They swim up to it, and then as soon as it moves again, they hammer it. So that 110 plus 1 is my go-to if I get short strikes, or if I just have fish follow the standard 110 to the boat. Now, if I'm seeing fish on the graft, or I'm fishing over deep trenches and I know they're there, that's when it's time to go to the 110 plus 2, get a little bit deeper. And I'll tell you something else about this bait that's pretty cool. A lot of times you're retrieving this bait, and you've paused it, you've jerked it, you've paused it, and a number of times I've gotten it close to the boat and started to kind of burn it back in to make another cast and have a fish hit it right there. So one of the things I like to do with this bait is when I get it close to the boat, just like if you're muskie fishing or pike fishing or big toothy critter fishing, just do a little bit of a pull down the side of the boat. For me, fishing out of a kayak, I get a lot of hits when I just do that hard direction change, and they've been following that bait. So that 110 plus 2 is money. Now, I throw this bait year round, okay? It's the silent, and what I love about this bait is, and it's one of those things that not a lot of people do, is I like throwing this bait up under docks in the summertime. And what I like about it being silent, I like to snatch, pull, and then drag, and then pull, and then snatch, drag. So I like to vary the cadence until I find out what they want. But what I also like about this bait is, because it's not overbearing, it's not too pitchy, I can throw it up under a dock, I can skip it under a dock, and I can literally pull it right down by the piling, and then and then stop it, and just give it a twitch and get it to turn. And man, that thing, the only problem with this bait sometimes is they get it so far down their throat because they hit it so hard, you got to get a pair of long nose pliers to get it out of their gullet. So guys, that's my favorites in the Megabass lineup. You can get everything from Megabass that I just talked about, plus everything else that they make right here from the folks at FishUSA.